Golden State Media Concepts bring you Book Review Podcast, a haven for bookworms of all ages and the widest genres, from mystery to memoirs, romance to comedy, fantasy to sci-fi. If you love to read, this is the podcast for you. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Book Review Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah, and it is Tuesday, April 17th. I hope you had a great weekend and that your week is going well so far. We have another exciting episode for you today, another wonderful author to talk to. Today I will be speaking with author Marla J. Hayes about her book, Cassidy's Deadly Exit. And something that's really interesting about this book, it is a novella, it's a mystery, and it is part of what is called the Tawnee Mountain Mysteries. This is a set of 7 books, 7 novellas that are written by 7 different authors that have, the only thing they have in common is that they are set at the Tawnee Mountain Resort. So this was a group of authors that was brought together by Karen M. Bryson, and she has written other books, I believe, at the Tawnee Mountain Resort. So she had created this place, and she invited these other 6 authors to contribute to the collection, to write their own mystery. They could use characters that they had already written about before, or they could come up with new characters. The only thing that had to be consistent was that at least part of the book takes place at the Tawnee Mountain Resort. So I thought this was a really fascinating way to go about it. That it's a different way to come at writing a story where you have the location already chosen for you. It's a location that already exists in fiction. So you've had someone do that kind of legwork in terms of where the resort is located and some of the people who work there. Marla will talk about what they called the Bible, which was put together by Karen for the authors that had a lot of information in it. So it's a fascinating process, I thought, and really interesting that there were these 7 different mystery writers who came together to create this collection called the Tawnee Mountain Mysteries. And so Marla's contribution to this collection is Cassidy's Deadly Exit. Broadway actress Cassidy Quinn finally wins a long-coveted Tony Award, but the words in her acceptance speech stir up a new problem. A previously low-key fan ramps up online rhetoric to the point where her usual security categorizes this unidentified person as an avidly persistent stalker. Cassidy takes control of her career and her safety while doing her best not to disappoint her most devoted fans. She travels to the Tawnee Mountain Resort to attend her first fan convention, a small gathering of her superfans. After all, what could happen to her when she's surrounded by devoted admirers, trusted employees, and the security precautions of a resort that has hosted large-scale political gatherings without a single reported incident? When events at the gathering turn deadly, Cassidy must figure out who among her fans and her staff wants to kill her and her career. So it's both mystery and suspense with a little bit of thriller thrown in there. It is one of those books that I like because the main character is not your typical main character heroine type. Although in mysteries you do have I hate to say it, older women as main characters. You just don't often get middle-aged women, especially as love interests, and there is a little bit of romance in this book, and that looks like it might be continuing as the series goes on. Cassidy will be featured in more mysteries going forward, Cassidy and Kevin, so that's exciting. But she is a 40-ish something actress. She's an actress. She doesn't want to give her real age, and middle-aged women don't often get portrayed. It's certainly, less on television and movies, maybe a little more in books. And she's a Broadway actress, so she's feeling some of that herself. So I just really appreciated that Cassidy was the age that she doesn't admit to being and that she is in this role. So something that I appreciate, and I know I've said that before, but I'll probably say it again because I really like when I find those characters, and I will continue sharing them with you. At any rate, we are going to get to the interview with Marla. So let's go ahead and turn now to the interview with Marla J. Hayes, author of Cassidy's Deadly Exit, part of the Tawnee Mountain Mysteries. Marla, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Sarah. It's good to be here.
It's lovely to have you here. So we are here to talk about your book, Cassidy's Deadly Exit. Before we get to that, though, I would love to get to know you a little bit and have my listeners get to know you a little bit. So if you could just share a bit about yourself, that would be great.
Let's see. How about we start with I've moved 33 times in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. So when somebody asks me where I'm from, I say everywhere. Most of the moves, well, all of the moves are in Canada, from the East Coast to Halifax, all the way up to Northern Ontario. Even further north than I am now. What else can I say? Oh yes, by the way, I am Canadian.
It would make sense since you've moved.
In case somebody wonders, where the hell is she talking about? Yeah. How about I was adopted as a baby of 21 days and only found out my birth mother's name in 2009.
Oh, wow.
And this week, after 47 years of searching, I'm 99% sure I found out my birth father's name.
Oh, wow. That's exciting.
Yeah. So it's a great relief to know who you came from.
Mm-hmm.
And that tells you a little bit about my personality. Like, I'm stubborn, and I'll get answers, and I'll search for answers until I get them, and that's what keeps me going in life.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you for that. Do you have, I'm just thinking about your 33 moves, do you have a favorite place that you've lived?
I think, well, it had to do with family experience, because there was just my sister and my parents and I for each of those moves. I think Fort Erie in southern Ontario would have been the place I had the most fun. Of course, I only lived there a year, but yeah, and maybe the 5 weeks I lived in Ottawa.
5 weeks! Oh my goodness, you packed in you packed that experience into a very short amount of time.
Yeah, my father was a banker, so he went where the bank sent him.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it averaged out to about every other year.
Wow, that's crazy.
So I had lots of experiences, and it certainly shaped the way I think about the world and the way I relate to people and things like that.
Did you stay put once you became an adult, or did you continue moving around?
When somebody says, I've lived someplace all my life, and you can call that home. Well, I don't really have a home per se. I don't have that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still in touch with some. I'm still close in touch with some friends from high school. So that would be like the longest relationship. But I certainly can't remember people's names who were teachers,
Mm,
back when, and because I've just met too many people in my life.
Sure.
And I faces sometimes, but wow, it's yeah. There's only so much room upstairs,
That's right. Those brain cells get replaced with other things.
Mm-hmm.
So let's
Definitely
go ahead and talk about your book. Tell us. It's called Cassidy's Deadly Exit. So tell us a little bit about the premise.
Well, I don't want to give too much away.
No, you don't. But maybe just a little brief
intro.
Little blurb? Yeah.
Okay, it's a Tony Award-winning actress, Cassidy Quinn, wins on the night that she wins her Tony. She makes an announcement that will change her life forever. And it brings out a threat to her life, and she doesn't know who the threat is coming from. Could be a fan, could be in her entourage, her management people. It could even be her assistant. But she manages to brave through and go to the first ever fan convention held at this Tawnee Mountain Resort. And that's where everything comes to a head, and she finds out, she survives the events and finds out who was trying to kill her.
Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about Cassidy as the main character. What about her might resonate with readers, do you think?
She's not the typical 20-year-something airhead, you know, like she's 40-plus years. I mean, actresses aren't going to give you their real age. Mm-hmm. So she's 40-plus years old, and she's looking for a career change. And so she takes this leap of faith, I guess you'd call it. And so she's wanting to be her own woman in control of her life, and that really ticks some unknown people off. And she wants to go a new direction in her career. So, because you can't be, you know, it's getting better, but once you reach a certain age in the movie and the theater, you know, a lot of actresses are passed over.
Right, right.
So she's won her Tony, you know, she was nominated, this was her fourth nomination, so she's won her Tony. She figures, I'll go out on a high note. And
yeah, she's definitely not your you know, sometimes your typical mystery thriller heroine, which I like because, you know, she is a 40-something, whatever that age might be that she's not admitting to, which is refreshing because you don't always get that in books like this.
Yeah, I mean, she's not a cop, she's not a detective, she's not a forensic pathologist. You know, all these things were not, I mean, she may have played them, so she has picked up some tidbits of information and knowledge, but she's not in that kind of academic role.
It's time for me to jump in here and interrupt the interview so that we can take our first break of the podcast. But you've gotten the description of the book, and we've started talking a little bit about Cassidy. So when we come back, of course, we'll be talking more about that book, more about the Tawnee Mountain Mysteries in general, and then more about Marla's writing experience. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I will be right back.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, where today I am interviewing author Marla J. Hayes, who is part of the Tawnee Mountain Mysteries with her book, Cassidy's Deadly Exit. So let's go ahead and jump right back into that interview. Right. Did you have any particular inspiration for this story?
Inspiration. Well, the being assigned the location from the person who decided to gather this group of authors together. This founder of Short on Time Books, Karen M. Bryson, she gathered these people together, offered them the idea of writing a mystery, but the only requirement she wanted was that it be set at the Tawnee Mountain Resort that she had already established in her books. And so when she offered that to me, I thought, okay, I can do that. And then I've been curious lately about these escape rooms that have been cropping up all over the place. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if somebody put an escape room in a touristy resort hotel type thing, and only certain people could go to it? But then, of course, my mind went to, okay, somebody might die there, or, and I was just what-ifing through the whole thing. You ask yourself, what if? And then if you get the right characters, pick the right characters, they'll take you there, too. So they'll take over sometimes.
I've heard that, yes.
Yeah.
Are there any autobiographical elements in the story or in the characters at all?
Oh, come on. There's autobiographical elements in every writer's character.
Sure.
Well, as I said, my fascination with the escape rooms. I always figure I can figure out whodunit movies when I go to at the theater. It's kind of ruined it for me for seeing movies and stuff. Like The Sixth Sense, within 5 minutes, I knew what the ending was going to be.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and so when everybody was finished and they all gasped at the end of and I went, like, how come you couldn't figure it out? So I'm an inquisitive person. I like to solve things, so I guess that part is autobiographical. Mm-hmm. I mean, not so much the resort or anything like that, but yeah, there are definitely elements of me and Cassidy, and my long-time interest with the theater and movie business. So, yeah.
The book clearly leaves room for more stories involving Cassidy and Kevin, who's her assistant. So do you have more planned, and do you have kind of an arc in mind for how many there might be?
I'd like to write, if this was the first one, my series would then become the Spotlight Theater Mysteries as a general title. And with Cassidy and Kevin, I would like to write 4. So like 3 more separate ones from this one. And I have an idea in mind, as the book will tell you. There's a paragraph in there that describes what I hope will be the first of their own series. And but as a final arc, I don't know. I don't want to go the usual, they'll get married and live happily ever after. That's boring. We've got to surprise the readers, So I haven't actually gone that far. But, yeah, I think 4 would be a nice round figure, and then you could package them together, and people could buy them all at the same time.
Right. Do you envision them as novella length or full-length novel?
I think the novella format suits me well. Lots of people I've gotten lots of feedback. We wanted more.
Right.
So that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually great because they liked it, and they're interested in reading more. So fine, I'll give you more.
Absolutely.
But just not in long, boring books.
Okay. So this is part of the the Tawnee Mountain Mysteries, and you mentioned that before, that they're all set at the Tawnee Mountain Resort. So you were invited to partake in this process. How did that process work? Because there's, 7 authors, I think, in this collection?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, 7. Well, Karen, as I said, Karen Mueller-Bryson approached us about it, and most of the authors already had been published through her independent publishing company, Short on Time Books. And so she sort of knew what we were capable of and our writing styles and things like that. The only new person would be Randy Rossetti, whom I went to high school with.
Oh, interesting. And he'll be on he's my next interview.
Yes. We've been talking about you behind your back.
Oh, no. I knew I heard it.
Your ears don't have to be burning. It's okay. Yeah, and so he has, from his novel, Dark Side of the Mountain, he has started his own series. I think he's on book, he's written, and
there's 2 described in the back, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kate and Malone's Mysteries, I think he's calling them. But Karen, she's had she's written several series, some under a pseudonym, and then there's Karen Rando, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She has the Rim County Mysteries, so she brought her characters in. And then Wendy Fallon has the Akali May Mystery Series, and she wrote with her characters in mind. And Lori has Behind the Mic series, Mysteries.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And now Lee Tidball is the only one that doesn't really have a mystery series like the others. But he has a couple of other published books through Short on Time. And he's got Princess Reborn series of graphic novels. So, I mean, we're all fairly experienced writers.
Mm-hmm.
And our stories aren't interlocked. They're all standalone stories.
Right.
So you don't have to read them in any particular order. One isn't dependent upon the other, except the only common element is the resort and maybe Old Town, where the fictional Old Town, and some of the characters that Karen had already established being from Old Town.
Okay. Yeah, so that was my question, was who had established what this town, what this resort kind of looked like, and then there are a few characters that, I've only read yours and Randy's, but for instance, Mr. Wilson, Tico Bai, and Sam Elliott are in both books. So did you have kind of a character sketch of those characters so you knew who you were writing about?
Like I hadn't read I have read because I proofread for Karen I actually work for Karen or Short on Time Books when I'm not writing for her. I had read her series, the Wild Brothers series. I think there's 4 books in those ones, and she had written it under Savannah Young. And so I sort of knew what her characters were about, but when we were planning this series, she provided each of us with, let's say, an actor or actress's picture that she sort of thought her characters might look like. So we could, if we described them, they would have some of the same, like dark hair, blue eyes, height, things like that. And for Tico Bai, she used Wayne Johnson. So we all got that he was a large, muscular man, but a nice man and things like that. And so she had sent us out what I guess other people would call a Bible, and to which we would add our own. And the list of town characters grew depending on each of the novels. You know, we would say, okay, well, now this person lives in Old Town, separate from, in my case, Cassidy and Kevin, because I think I needed a lawyer, a doctor, a newspaper person, newspaper owner, things like that, that she hadn't used in her books. But if we were going to be using Old Town in our series any further, they might crop up, they might have need of them.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So was this a process that you enjoyed? What are some of the pros and cons of writing like this?
I don't know that there were any real pros and cons. It was a writing, I looked at it as a writing assignment, with the hope that I would get paid in the end if readers buy them.
Always nice.
You get the royalties, things like that. But we had freedom to write what we wanted, and as long as they were stuck at the resort. So I would call it a dream writing gig. There were no real restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, once you sent the first draft in, they would tell you if hey, no, you're not following it. It certainly wasn't like. Actually, it was kind of a pro to have that guidance. So you didn't have to come up with a whole new setting, and you didn't have to come up with all the characters. You were. It was like a nice, gentle place to sit and write and let these characters come to mind. And yeah, it was different. And for me, it was different. Being the length, the novellas are only 20 to 40,000 words, so that's different than having to write, like a huge book or even a screenplay.
Absolutely. And I'm going to jump in here again for our second break of the podcast. But I do want to say again how interesting I think this whole process is of writing books that are set in the same place, that don't have necessarily interconnecting characters or interconnecting stories. They are all standalone novels, but they're just set at the same place. So you get this, the place is almost another character, but you're getting all of these different stories brought to you by different authors who have made different writing styles. And so there's still mysteries, but you get a really eclectic, set of stories and writing styles, and I just find that fascinating. So we are going to take our second break. When we come back, we'll have the conclusion to my interview with Marla. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast and the conclusion to my interview with Marla J. Hayes, author of Cassidy's Deadly Exit. So these are all standalone stories. Is there a place, though, that you can get the whole, all 7 stories in one book, or do you buy them separately?
You buy them separately. I imagine in the near future, they'll be released as a box set of the paperbacks.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? What are you working on? Are you working on another book? Are you writing other things?
Well, as I said, I've got the next novella with Cassidy and Kevin sort of plotted out. Ideas keep coming to me for more short scripts for short films. And a local author friend and myself are self-publishing a picture book that revolves around our local heritage carousel.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, we've got the illustrations all done, and we hope it goes to the printer next week. And our book launch hopefully will be at the carousel here on the long weekend in May.
Oh, fun. What is the name of the book?
The Magical Midnight Rescue.
Oh, fun. And
it's for readers 5 and older.
Mm-hmm. Did you work on the illustrations?
Although I draw, I knew I couldn't handle getting them exactly the way we wanted them. So we'd come across the daughter of another friend in town who was just finishing up her graphic arts course in college. So she did the illustrations for her. And it was good experience for her, too, as a first work assignment.
Absolutely, yeah. So, okay, you do a lot of different kinds of writing. When you read your biography in the book, it seems like you've written basically everything. So what...
yeah, I do.
How is the process different? So let's say different between writing a screenplay and writing a novel.
Page length comes to mind. You're very restricted for a script. Novels, you kind of, the novella, I say, could be 20 to 40,000 words, but a script is usually around 100 pages. And with a script, you have the freedom to use any point of view of any character, but you're limited by what you can see. Mm-hmm. In a book, you can go into the character's thoughts.
Right.
You can talk about them and how they're thinking, and in a book, you try to keep it concentrated on one or two characters, so that the reader doesn't get too lost. I think that's the main difference. And personally, when I read a book, I usually skip over big, long descriptions
mm-hmm.
and get right to the dialogue, because I find the dialogue should tell a story, and often does. So I think that's what led me right into screenwriting, because it's three-quarters of that, or if not more, of a script is dialogue.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Are there any other kinds of writing that you really prefer to do, or do you kind of like everything?
Oh, I'm pretty easygoing. I can do pretty much anything anybody asks me to, and if I can't, I'll find out how to do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Do you have a favorite thing about writing?
I think it's the joy of putting words together in a way that you can amaze yourself. And when your characters take over, wow, it's a totally different world. On the other hand, my least favorite thing would be rewriting. And 90% of writing is rewriting. So,
That's a lot of your least favorite thing, Marla.
Yeah. Rewriting can be pulling teeth, but it's also when everything goes well and you get feedback. Like I have a circle of friends who I trust their opinions, and if their opinions all point to the same thing, then I know that that's what I have to work on, improving usually. But if their notes vary, then it's up to me, and you got to go with your gut,
Yeah. Is writing what you've always wanted to do, or when did you start writing?
Oh, let's see. I had teenage years I had binders of angst-filled poetry, things like that.
Right.
I kept a journal all through university and then threw it out. My God, I'm kicking myself now for that.
Sure.
Because there would have been stories galore in there. And my first taste of reader approval, I guess, came in grade 6 or 7. We were to write a kid's story, like for the younger grades, going for the younger readers in the school. And mine was Douglas D. Dog, and I illustrated it myself, and it came back barely holding together.
Oh, wow.
And all the kids read it and read it and read it and read it. So that I thought, oh, wow, this might be something I can actually do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm disabled, so in the sense that I can't ride a bike, I can't skate, I can't walk very far and things like that. So, and when kids would be off, friends even be off riding bikes and stuff like that, I had to figure out something to do. So, if I wasn't creating a mess with my art, as my mother used to complain about, then I'd be writing something.
Yeah. Do you still have a copy of Douglas D. Dog?
I do indeed.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I found it, oh, God, I think about 2 years ago. So I immediately slipped it into one of those archival plastic sleeves, and yeah, it's in my file cabinet.
That's really cool.
I surprised myself when I found it.
Yeah, I mean, you threw away your college journal, so you never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have advice for other authors, whether they're just starting out or whether they're even established? Do you have advice for authors?
Persevere. That works for and of course that works for every aspect of your life. Don't be hard on yourself. You're usually your own worst critic. Sure. And you've got to develop a thick skin. You're going to get so many no's. I could wallpaper apartment buildings back in the day when we didn't have the internet.
Right.
With the letter rejections and things like that, from right down from a magazine all the way up to an agent for books and things like that. And now I can classify rejections by, oh, that's a good rejection. Look, they wrote a little note on the bottom of it. Mm-hmm. Or, they complimented me on some things in the rejection and things like that. And they said, well, yes, this is a great idea, but we're already doing something like that. So you're on the right track. So, if you're going to be a writer, you're in it for the long haul. And unless you're somebody like like Margaret Atwood or Linwood Barclay, who I went to university with, for Canadian writers, it's stick to it.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have favorite authors or genres that you like to read?
Ooh, this is a hard one for me to figure out because just can't remember authors' names. Isn't that awful? I'm an author and I can't remember authors' names.
Oh, I write everything down because I can't remember half the time if I've read a book, so I have a list.
Oh, God, I'd have a novel of lists. Yeah.
Yeah.
J.D. Robb, Tess Gerritsen, maybe Kathy, is it Reichs? Right?
Oh, yeah, didn't
she wrote the Bones
the
novels?
Bones novels, yeah.
That the TV series was based on.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see where I'm, a little bit of, I like to read the mysteries, so, maybe that's why I sort of went into this too.
Right.
Genres, wide-ranging, science fiction, action adventure, and I particularly got hooked on novels in high school by reading generational historical novels.
Mm-hmm.
One particular, and I can't remember her name, one particular high school English teacher got us reading these great big thick books, and I thought, oh God, I don't want to read that. Yeah, but I got drawn into it like crazy, and so yeah, it's a wide range of interests, but that's me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. In terms of your book, where can people buy it? Can they find it on Amazon? Is it available in brick and mortar stores? Where can they find it?
So far, it's just Amazon.com and for Canadians.ca.
Right.
The Kindle versions will be, you can pre-order them now, but they will be available then on our big release date, which is April 16th. And I think those are the only places so far.
Okay.
Karen Short on Time Books likes to stick with Amazon.
Sure. Okay. And then where can people find you on the internet? For a website or social media?
I don't have my own website, but for my screenwriting, I am on IMDb under Marla J. Hayes, and I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, and on Facebook I have a personal page and Marla Hayes screenwriter page.
Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
So I'm pretty easy to find.
Okay. And is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to talk about in terms of your books or writing or anything that we haven't covered?
The only thing I think is if you do buy the books, and I don't just mean mine, but any of the ones in the series, and you like it, please post a review for our reader, for myself, as well as anybody else who might be considering it. It's like a little thank you note to the author, and it doesn't take very long, and we really appreciate it.
Yes, I have heard that from other authors, and it is very much appreciated. So I second that thought. Well, Marla, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your weekend to talk to me. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to more Cassidy and Kevin adventures.
Thank you very much.
Once again, I want to thank Marla for taking the time to speak with me. Again, her book is Cassidy's Deadly Exit. It is in part of the Tawnee Mountain Mysteries. That series released yesterday, April 16th. Today is the 17th. So those are all available. There are 7 in that collection. And actually, if you tune in again on Thursday, as we mentioned in the interview, we'll be speaking with Randy Rossetti, who is another of the Tawnee Mountain Mystery authors. He has the second book in the series called The Dark Side of the Mountain, so I hope you tune in for that, especially because both of these books are available as giveaways. Yes, we have copies of both of the books for this week. We have a copy of Marla's book, Cassidy's Deadly Exit, available for giveaway. So as a reminder for how you can enter into those contests for free books, I love free books. I love giving away free books. Just go to our social media. All the links are in the show description. They're also on our website. So go to our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram pages to be eligible to enter. On Facebook, you just have to share episode 74. Twitter, retweet the tweet of episode 74. And on Instagram, just comment on the post where episode 74 has been posted. So that's it. Social media, sharing, retweeting, or commenting. You can do it on all three sites if you want, if whatever works best for you. So I do again want to thank Marla and Karen, whom I've never met, but for putting this group of authors together. We actually will have a third author in a couple of weeks who is also part of this series. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to reading another installment in this series. One thing about this is that it is a novella, and as I was thinking about my thoughts on this story, I really enjoyed this story. Novellas can be a little tricky because, as Marla said in her interview, people wanted more. And so there will be more books in the series, which I'm glad about because I feel like there is definitely more to Cassidy that I did not get in this book. There were things that I was like, yes, but what's the story behind that? And same thing with Kevin. There's more there, and there's definitely more backstory that we didn't get. And of course, in a novella, you're not going to spend a lot of time filling in some of those details that you might in a full-length novel. So I'm excited that there are more books coming so that I can get to know Cassidy a little better. But one thing that I really liked about this book is that at the very end, after the story ends, Marla includes a section on getting to know Cassidy, and this is from her ITDB page, which I assume is like IMDb, Internet Movie Database. This is Internet Theater Database, I'm going to guess, and it's just like an IMDb page. So it lists the productions she's been in, it gives some trivia on Cassidy, it gives some of her quotes, so you get to know Cassidy a little bit better from that. And then in the book, there's mention of an interview when Cassidy interviewed herself for a magazine, and that interview is actually in here. So there's a couple of things at the end of the book that gives you a little bit more information about Cassidy, which I thought was a really fun way to get to know her a little better without sticking it in the story or trying to find ways to just organically have that emerge from the story. So just something that I appreciated and liked about the book. I appreciate and like you, my listeners, very, very much. Thank you for tuning in. I again want to thank Marla for joining me. I want to thank you for joining me and invite you to tune in again on Thursday when Randy Rossetti will be here to talk about his contribution to the Tawnee Mountain Mysteries. And I keep saying Randy, but he does go professionally by RJ Rossetti. So I should say that if you are looking for his books, he is RJ Rossetti. So he will be here to talk about Dark Side of the Mountain. Just a reminder that Cassidy's Deadly Exit is one of our giveaway books. So go on to social media, share this episode, tell your friends, and you'll be entered into that contest to win a copy of this book. That will be going on for the next 2 weeks, and then I'll announce the winners. As a reminder, we still have the books from last week up for our for entry into those contests. So Claire Marty's book At Last in Laguna and Cynthia Diamond's book Alchemy's Hunger are still available those contests are still available for entry. And that is through Saturday. Saturday is the 28th. So through the 28th, and then winners will be announced on Monday the 30th. So you still have time if you want to enter into those, and definitely enter to win Cassidy's Deadly Exit. Thank you again so much. Join me again on Thursday. And in the meantime, go out and get yourself lost in a good book.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Book Review Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.glsmedia.com. GSMCpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.